NHL hockey is the subject. We're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights, and to do that, we turn to Jesse Granger. He covers the Golden Knights for The Athletic. And Jesse, thanks for being with us here on Sportsnaut. We start in with the Golden Knights, and listen, this franchise since it started has been an amazing story. Of course, going to the Stanley Cup Finals in their inaugural season, and then last year winning the Stanley Cup. Finally in their sixth season, start out 7-0, then they go to 11-1-1, just a historic start. And I think with that start, a lot of people start putting expectations, and they know how grueling the hockey season is, and they say, well, that's a great start, but there's no way they're going to be able to keep it up. Now they've lost 3 of 4, to be expected. But when you look at the way this team started, coming off the Stanley Cup victory, why did they get off to a hot start, and was it indicative, do you think, of what this roster can do this season in the NHL?
I think it's very indicative just because I think one of the most impressive things that they were winning, especially early in the year when they were playing really well, they were winning in the exact formula that they won in the playoffs with, and they were dominant in the playoffs. They never faced an elimination game. They only trailed in one series in those playoffs, and that was 1-0 to the Winnipeg Jets the first series. And then after that, they never trailed. And that was by playing a dominant defensive zone system where they pack players around the net. They don't allow shots from in close. They'll let you take as many shots from the outside as you want, but those are easy saves for their goalies. It pads the goalie stats. If you look at Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson, their numbers are phenomenal, just like they were in the playoffs, and they deserve some credit for making some saves, but I think it's more to do with the system this team plays around them. Is just really goalie friendly. So when a team comes back the next year and they're winning in the exact same way that they were winning with last year's roster, you say, okay, this is the same team. They're doing it again. And I think another factor is Bruce Cassidy is incredible at starting seasons. If you go back to all of his years in Boston and you look at the Bruins teams, they're always one of the hottest teams out of the gates. And then he comes to Vegas, and last year he was trying to teach his system brand new to these guys, and yet last year their start was almost just as good as it was this year, which is hard to believe. But I think that's a huge factor in that is Bruce Cassidy's ability to get his team playing structured hockey earlier than maybe some of the other coaches are. You look around the league, almost every coach early in the season, they talk about how sloppy the hockey is, about how the teams aren't executing like they would in midseason, maybe some missed assignments, but for whatever reason, his training camps are excellent. He's able to get his team up to speed a little bit earlier than everyone else, and then you take advantage of the sloppy hockey on the other side of the ice. So I think that's something we should probably expect as long as Bruce Cassidy's here in Vegas is a strong start because he's done it everywhere he's been.
And I was going to ask you about Cassidy because obviously the Golden Knights in their history, the 3 coaches have done well, but they've always been close but no cigar. And then Bruce Cassidy comes in with that system, as you talk about, and just seems to also, I find, I'm watching from a distance and watching the games, I find the rapport he seems to have with his players seems to be at a different level. Not that the other guys didn't have good relationships, but Bruce Cassidy, I think, having been there, having succeeded, like you said, in Boston before, how much has that meant when you're talking to the players? What's the relationship between coach and the players?
It's been good. Bruce Cassidy's a little harder on him, I think, than the first 2 coaches in Vegas were. Gerard Gallant is notoriously a player's coach. He's buddies with everybody, and the players love him for it. And he's a great coach in his own right. And then you bring in Pete DeBoer, who's a little more of a boss type of guy, but he's still pretty relaxed. And Cassidy, I think, is even another step in that direction. He's a lot more disciplinarian. He's very honest with the media. If you watch a Bruce Cassidy press conference, he doesn't hold anything back. If he thinks a player didn't play well, he tells you that he didn't play well. So I think there's a little bit of he's holding the players accountable, and I think accountability is huge. And I think when the coach is as honest as Bruce Cassidy is, I think it kind of just trickles down to the players and being honest with themselves. And when you look at this hot start, if you go back and you watch like Mark Stone after a big win, they've won 10 in a row or whatever, he's got nothing but critiques to make on how they need to be better here and how they need to be better here. And I think it's one thing to win your first 10 games, 11 games and say, well, we need to be better, but you don't actually believe it. But I think these players actually believed it. And I think that's a big part of that is obviously these are veteran guys that have been around the league. They know what it takes to win. They know what winning hockey looks like. And they knew maybe they were getting away with some things early in the year that would probably come back to bite them if they didn't fix it. But I think more so it's Bruce Cassidy and that just accountability, honesty, that's the culture he's brought to this team, and I think it's really helped him.
Nice. Yeah. One guy I want to talk about because I don't know if it's related, but off to a hot start. And it's good to see because you go back to that inaugural season with the Misfits and all that. And William Karlsson had an amazing season, got his deal with the Golden Knights, has been, I think, an underrated player for them for a while, but he's off 8 goals, 10 assists so far to start the season. What are you seeing in his game? Why is he off to such a hot start? Has he changed anything? And do you think he's sort of in a spot where he's going to have another standout year?
Yeah, he's playing really well right now. I think they're like confidence affects every player, and that's
Hmm.
across sports, right? Like when an athlete has confidence and he feels it, you just play better, and you can't manufacture that. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. I think William Karlsson and Shea Theodore is another one on this team that confidence affects their games more than pretty much anyone. And last year, Carlson had a down year scoring. He still did all the things that coaches love. It's why he's always the coach's favorite player. He's back checking. He's always in the right spot. He's never caught on the wrong side of the puck. But last regular season, pucks weren't going in. Then you get to the playoffs, and suddenly the pucks were going in. You see that confidence. Suddenly he's scoring at a higher pace than he had since that first year when he put 43 in. And I think this year is just carrying over from that. You see the same type of confidence. He is really carrying that line. That's the other thing is they aren't putting William Karlsson between Marchessault and Stone or really high scoring players. Like he's been carrying lines this year with Michael Amadio, Paul Cotter on his sides, and he's still producing and still playing the tough defensive minutes with lesser players, still very good players, but not the elite players on his wings. So, yeah, I mean, I think William Karlsson's been the MVP so far through 16 games. When the rest of his game is so good that when he is scoring, he's usually the best player on the ice, and he just every time I watch William Karlsson, the one thing that always stands out to me is the guy never gets tired. And that's why he's such a good back checker and why he plays such good defense because most players, they try to conserve some of their energy because they want to go score goals. Karlsson has no worries about conserving energy. I don't think I've watched him for 7 years. I don't think it's physically possible for William Karlsson to be tired. The guy skates so well and he just makes it look easy out there. So yeah, he's been really good. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it has been fun to watch, and of course, then you toss in Eichel and Stone, all those guys. Marchessault, you mentioned, that lineup is dangerous when they're healthy, when they're going at full pace. It's fun to watch. When you look at the Golden Knights and you start to think about, I mean, we're just at the beginning of the season, clearly, but you start to look down the line. You see how well Vancouver's doing. Clearly, what challenges do they have in the division and on that side for getting to where they want to go, which is to get back, which is hard to win back-to-back Stanley Cups. But I know that's where they want to go. That's the goal of ownership. That's the goal of the coaching staff and the players. What's in their way if they're going to do that, Jesse, this season?
Yeah, I think it's the Pacific Division to me is the most improved division in hockey this year. I think you look at every team in that division, with the exception of Edmonton, who everyone wants to talk about how bad they've been. I still think in the end, Edmonton's going to be a playoff team. I
Mm,
think there's just too much talent. Too much
yeah.
has gone wrong for that team. Things are going to go their way. I don't think they're going to be contending for the division title because they've already fallen so far behind Vegas and Vancouver. But I do think that's a playoff team. And then you look at Vancouver is so much improved. The Kings are looking really good. They're one of the best surprises. The Ducks have gotten a lot better. The Kraken are about what they were. They might have had a little dip to start the season, but that's still a really good team. And the Flames, you can't count out of it. The only team that in this division that is no threat is the Sharks, and they're the worst team in hockey. You don't have to worry about them. You're going to get a free win every once in a while with the Sharks in your division, but every other team in this division is improving. The Ducks have been really impressive with Greg Cronin coming in there and having them play a little more structured defense. And that's gotten the best out of John Gibson. And when he's good, Gibson gives you a chance to win every night when you're playing structured hockey in front of him. And Vancouver to me is their biggest test to come out of this Pacific Division right now, especially with the Oilers struggling the way they are. I think the Canucks are due for some regression. Their
Mm.
shooting percentage is insanely high right now. They're not going to maintain that for the whole year. Thatcher Demko is exceptional. I think he's one of the best goalies in the league. But even he is due for a little bit of regression because his saves that he's making, especially when you look at his high danger save percentage, that's not going to be maintained all season. So I think the Canucks are going to come back to earth a little bit. This is their heater right now, but even when they do, that is a really good team. They skate well, they pass well, and everyone on that team can shoot. They've got so many snipers on that team. I think to me, if the Oilers don't get back to being the true contender that we all expected them to be, if that doesn't happen, Vancouver is the biggest hurdle for this team to get out of the Pacific.
Yeah, and I mean it's going to be brutal hockey, right? I mean these teams all have that talent as you just went through, and I think that the attrition rate is going to be high because you're going to be beating up on each other, and then when you do get into the Stanley Cup playoffs, how much you're going to have left, because it is, again, the most grueling, I think, playoff system there is in sports. It's a great one, but it's difficult. Lastly, Jesse, before we let you go, for fans around the country, I think they heard about the Golden Knights to begin with. Obviously, they win the Stanley Cup, but the love affair between the city of Las Vegas and the Golden Knights, it doesn't stop, does it? I mean, it still continues to captivate Las Vegas, despite the Raiders being there, despite WNBA and, of course, Major League Baseball on its way, maybe. Yep. That love affair, it keeps getting deeper and deeper, doesn't it?
It sure does. Winning helps, but I also think it's that they were the first. I think that matters more than anything. I think it matters more than the winning. It matters more than it being hockey. It matters more than, yeah, they got a great color scheme and it all goes well and the gear looks great and everybody wants to wear it. But I think more than anything, they were the first team. You've been here in Vegas for a while. I've been here in Vegas for a while. This city wanted a team to represent them, not a third league in football or some semi-pro league. They wanted a real team to represent them that wasn't UNLV, and it didn't matter what sport it was. That team was going to be, the city was going to fall in love with that team, and the Golden Knights just happened to be that team. And then they made it really easy on everybody by doing nothing but winning for 6 years. So that obviously helps. But yeah, it's been cool to watch. I play hockey here in Vegas. It has been fun to see how many people have started playing hockey. My men's league games start at midnight sometimes because the ice is so full here in Vegas. They're already building more rinks and they can't keep up with how many people want to play hockey. As someone who has watched hockey my whole life, and I moved out here to Vegas when I was in high school, this city obviously was not in love with hockey then. There was still some hockey fans, but it wasn't like it is now. It's been really fun for me to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I was going to mention your own playing. I know you went from roller and graduated to ice, correct? Are you still playing?
I played both growing up. And,
did you? Okay.
Yes, but as an adult, I was playing mostly roller, and then I switched over. I haven't played roller for a year and a half now. It's been all ice.
Are you still playing in net though? Are you still a goalie? What are you doing?
Yep, only goalie. Yeah, I when I was real young, like 6 or 7, I would play everything, but honestly, I don't think I've played anything but goalie since I was like 10 years old. I just like being the goalie. It's just comfortable back there. That's just what I like doing. And I'm always needed, right? Everyone's always looking for a goalie. So I'm constantly getting texts. Hey, can you fill in for us tonight? So it's good.
And dare I say, everybody out there, first of all, you got to go read Jesse up on The Athletic. When I read your stuff, I can see the appreciation for goalies and the fact that you play the position, which is nice because you do have a center of knowledge that most of us who never played the position don't have. So it's very refreshing. And of course, the game the other night in Washington that the Golden Knights left was a display of great goaltending. And I saw you're commenting on that too. So it's all good stuff. Well, stay healthy out there on the ice. You know, as you age, man, things just start happening. So be careful. I know you're still young.
Yeah. Starting to feel it more and more every day.
Well, Jesse, man, listen, thank you so much for being with us here on Sportsnaut to talk about the NHL, talk about the Golden Knights, and we'll catch up with you down the road in the season.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.